Everybody, it's Melin here with Women's Wellness Collaborative, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about organic acids testing today. Organic acids testing is something that covers a lot of different materials, so it's a rather in-depth topic, so I'm going to try to just give you like a little taste of what it can offer and why you might want to run an organic acids test in general. It's a great thing to run if you're looking to get some insight into what's happening on a variety of different systems. So if you have a whole lot of symptoms and you've got all kinds of stuff going on and you don't even know where to start or where to start investigating what's happening, this can be a great way to give you insights into several different areas of function or potentially malfunction, right? That can also give you kind of some pointers to where you might want to investigate more deeply. So I'll run you through really quickly some of the things that you can find out on an organic acids test and some conditions under which you might want to run one. All right, so there are several different labs that offer really good organic acids tests, so I'm not going to talk about a specific test. Just know that there are several different ones out there. Organic acids is commonly called an oat test, you'll hear it. And like I said, it's a good overall assessment that can kind of give you insight into any number of different potential dysfunctions that are occurring. Organic acids are actually metabolic intermediates. So basically they're all these processes that our body's going through all of the time. And there are several different sort of reactions that go along in those process rates. So I don't know if you remember back in biology, like the Krebs cycle, and there are several different steps in that process. And there are intermediates that get produced at each of those different steps. And so basically what we usually want to have happen is for all of those cycles to be able to complete themselves. What can happen when there are issues with detoxification problems or problems with neurotransmitter breakdown or problems with inappropriate intestinal microbial activity is that some of these things can interfere with the body's ability to complete these processes. So what you'll wind up with is excesses of certain intermediaries that should be then used in the next step of the process but don't get used because that process has been blocked. So most of the things that you're looking for on an organic acids test are things that you want to have low or absent in the urine. But when these processes are blocked for any number of different reasons, you'll get excesses and those will spill over in the urine, and then you'll be able to capture them via the organic acids test. So some of the things that this can tell us about are how well you're metabolizing fatty acids. So that's how well you're breaking down fats and converting them to energy. Sometimes this can give us insight into specific nutrients that your body might need to enhance that process. So fatty acid metabolism and also carbohydrate metabolism, right? So how well you're breaking down carbohydrates, how well that they're being used for energy, and if there are specific nutrients that may be needed to enhance that process or to make sure that those sort of cycles and chains of functioning are happening properly. Energy production. So this would also be, I was talking about the Krebs cycle, so mitochondrial function. How well are your mitochondria working? There is actually a fair amount of research available right now suggesting that things like chronic fatigue are actually mitochondrial dysfunction or related to mitochondrial dysfunction. So this is about conversion of food to energy, so ATP, again, remembering back to high school biology, how the body produces energy, it's in this form of ATP, and ATP is kind of the final product of the Krebs cycle, which is essential to our muscle function and repair, and nerve function and repair, and tissue function and repair, right? So all of these things can be negatively impacted if our mitochondrial function is less than optimal. The organic acids test also looks at B-complex vitamin markers, so we get some sense of your overall nutrient status, particularly as it relates to B vitamins, which are essential to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of metabolic functions. And it also specifically evaluates for B12 and folate, which are essential in the methylation cycle. And so if there are abnormalities in the B12 and folate levels, it might indicate genetic polymorphisms in the MTHFR gene, which some of you have probably heard about. And so if that's the case, then people are kind of genetically predisposed to having poor detoxification capacity. So that's a great thing to know about and to be able to support. Also, neurotransmitter metabolism. If you heard my little video on the Dutch test, they are looking at a couple of neurotransmitters now, but on an organic acids test, you're going to get a much more in-depth look into neurotransmitters for dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, norepinephrine. So those things will often change or enhance mood or be somehow impact your mood status and energy status as well, and how well you respond to stress. Also, oxidative damage and antioxidant markers. So oxidative stress can occur as a result of any number of different things. It can occur as a result of over-exercising. It can occur as a result of having chronic infections or toxic exposure. It's also indicative of some sort of cellular damage or impairment of cellular function. Through an organic acids test, you'll also be provided with insight into how well you're detoxifying in certain ways. So this can suggest certain issues with gut infections, with liver health, with heavy metal toxicity, or even environmental toxin exposure or sensitivity. And then finally, there are also several markers on most organic tests that give you insight into whether or not there are imbalances in specific kinds of bacteria and yeasts. And actually, I think that organic acids testing is the best way to assess for yeast and fungal overgrowth, better even than stool testing. And one of the interesting things about most organic acids tests is that they'll specifically evaluate for certain clostridial bacterial markers that are associated with neurotransmitter levels and even brain inflammation. So you can start to see the way a lot of these things might connect and influence one another. And as you can tell, like I said in the beginning, it's giving you a whole lot of information. Some of it's not particularly specific and some of it is, but a lot of it can give us pointers to say, okay, here's where we really need to focus our investigation if we're dealing with so many things that we don't really know where to jump in at the outset.